We start this Tuesday afternoon with a look live from Sky 9 at a fire that is burning just south of 285 near Highway 8. And if you know that area, some of the familiar landmarks nearby include the famous Fort restaurant, as well as the Red Rocks Country Club. We've been watching this fire burning for a little while now, and you can see it is certainly active. It is climbing, and by the trail of smoke, we're also seeing some wind is driving it as well.
And we certainly have the heat today to add to the troubles. Jefferson County Sheriff's Department says this is near Mount Lindo. At this point, they're conducting door-to-door evacuations of homes in the areas. They say no structures are immediately threatened at this point. They do have air support on the scene. They have 60 residents that they have sent out notices to. Full evacuation from Mount Lindo and tip of Willow Springs area. And the evacuation site is currently the Fort restaurant, and we can see new flames right there, and the firefighters actually on the ground right there fighting that fire. They say you should expect some road closures in the area, including Highway 8, Snow Creek Lane, and Tiger Bend Lane, all of them impacted by this fire. And you see this fire, the firefighters, you know, this is rough terrain, but they're out there and they're on the ground and they're getting some air support, but neighbors in that area and
you do see firefighters right there next to that smoke at the very bottom of your screen, now behind the banner there, but there are some firefighters actively working that situation. It's a situation we'll be keeping you apprised of throughout the rest of this hour right here on 4 o'clock 9 News.
Also today, new video from the school in Uvalde, Texas, where a gunman killed 19 children and 2 teachers in late May. Our partners at KVUV in Houston have obtained new video showing the moment that the gunman walked into the school and started shooting.
Of course, we want to warn you, the videos can be very hard to watch, but we're choosing not to air much of it because of the disturbing nature. We're not going to share the sounds of any gunshots or screams as well. That too could be triggering to viewers. But the security cameras that were inside the school did capture the gunman casually walking down the hallway. One student saw him, paused, and then ran away when the gunman started to shoot. It was only 2 minutes later that officers did confront the shooter and ran towards the classroom, but then retreated when the gunman started to fire. They ran down the hallway to cover, where they stayed, mostly there for an hour. The time-lapse video showing more law enforcement arriving on the scene. They station at the end of the hall with their guns drawn, but little else happens. No officers made entry into the classroom for more than 70 minutes. Well, the director of the Texas Department of Public Safety has called the response that day an abject failure, saying the decisions made to wait on more backup, weapons, and shields were terrible and did likely cost lives.
The police chief for the district previously said he did not consider himself to be the scene commander that day and that he assumed another officer took control. We are still going through the video, and we have analysis of the video on 9news.com. COVID-19 cases in our community are soaring, and don't be deceived by the testing numbers. Consider this: the blue line on top illustrates the amount of COVID in our wastewater. The spike at the end of the chart shows another spike in cases in July. The orange graph you see on the screen shows our reported COVID cases, and that doesn't have the same spike, meaning people aren't testing or they're just not reporting those home test results. This COVID spike is driven by the BA.5 subvariant.
Well, it certainly comes at an awkward time as the clock is now ticking on 3 large counties in the metro area: Arapahoe, Adams, and Douglas. And they all pulled out of the decades-old TriCounty Health Department because of that agreement seemed to not fit for them. There were disagreements over mask mandates and vaccinations.
And now they must each create their own health departments by the end of the year. 9 News reporter Cole Sullivan shows us how it's going.
Arapahoe County didn't ask for this.
It wasn't our first choice when this happened.
But after Douglas, then Adams County withdrew from the Tri-County Health Department, they must now build their own. State law requires it to maintain services like tracking disease outbreaks, access to birth certificates, inspections of restaurants, and availability of vaccinations.
We're doing the best we can, and we feel like we're going to hit our goals.
Luke Hattelstadt, the Arapahoe County spokesperson, says it helps that they plan to take over existing infrastructure. like this TriCounty clinic on Broadway in Inglewood.
If it's already here physically in the county, we probably have dibs on it, I guess is the best way to say it.
The county's new public health director starts this week, and it announced 6 other senior staff appointments, all hired from the ranks of TriCounty Health.
In some ways, we're competing with Adams and Douglas for certain resources.
Competing because now Adams and Douglas will also need their own departments. Starting this month, Douglas will handle its own transmittable disease services. Adams has named a transition director. But splitting one department into 3 means they might not offer all the services that TriCounty used to.
So the basics will all be there. The very specific ones may vary depending on what we decide to do and how we decide to do it.
In Arapahoe, they also don't know how much more it's going to cost.
At a single county level, we're going to have to be a little more creative. It probably will cost a bit more, but we don't know what that number looks like yet.
Another reason they didn't ask for this. Cole Sullivan, 9 News.
The Tri-County Health Department says it is still open for business until the end of the year.
Because staff are getting jobs with new county departments, I should say. A spokesperson says they may have to cut back on some of the services down the line, but she also says they plan to work on easing the transition as that deadline of December 31st approaches.
And let's take another look at the view from this brush fire that's burning. West Metro Fire is responding, as well as Jefferson County, to this fire that's burning near Highway 285 in Morrison. There's an evacuation area for a couple of neighborhoods, and they're telling folks to go to the Fort Restaurant, which is well known. This is a small fire at this point. They're getting some air support. Initially, they said it was about an acre in size, but we've certainly seen the fire moving a little bit, so it's probably bigger than that. It is moving southwest up the mountain. It's near Mount Lindo. Firefighters are going door to door with the evacuations, and they're, of course, working it on the ground and from the air.
So we want to get a look at the conditions surrounding that fire right now. Danielle Grant is joining us. And Danielle, obviously a very hot day, not helping in that regard, but tell us what these firefighters are looking at there.
Luckily right now, you guys, the winds aren't really that bad in and around that area. However, I am tracking some thunderstorms up in the mountains through the foothills that could come down. Yes, bring a bit of rain that would be helpful. The lightning, not so much, and those gusty outflow winds, not ideal either. So definitely I'll be monitoring that. But like you mentioned, the heat, another factor that firefighters are dealing with. Temperatures soaring into the mid-90s at this 4 o'clock hour across the Denver metro area, off to the northeastern plains too, 90s in Lamar and Pueblo, 80s in Kremling, up toward Eagle, and 98 in Grand Junction. Again, the metro area looking pretty toasty, 85 in Arvada. We're at 75, a little cooler up there in Evergreen. And you can see from our vantage point from Lookout Mountain looking up to the north that certainly we do have some stormy skies ahead. I'll zoom in here to the Denver area. We haven't seen much just yet, but we are looking at a little isolated shower pushing in just to the north of Boulder. A severe thunderstorm warning continuing for about the next 40 minutes into Weld County at 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts within that cell, and also some quarter-size hail being reported. So keep that in mind as that storm cell marches off to the south as we look ahead toward the next half hour or so. Slow-moving thunderstorms and a whole lot of water, prompting some flash flood warnings in and around south central Colorado this evening. So still pretty active out there, but again, the bullseye for seeing any of those stronger storms will be across far northeastern Colorado. 5, 6 o'clock, you can kind of see that cell that's just to the north of Fort Collins sinking to the south, but then everything kind of scooting off to the south and to the east by 7 p.m. out of the Denver area. And then by 11 o'clock, we'll be looking at mostly clear skies here for the metro. Again, tomorrow, another sizzling hot day. I am tracking another round of storms, those pushing in for the weekend. Will the heat stick around too? I have all those answers in about 10 minutes.
We also have new video this afternoon of a fire that destroyed 3 townhomes in Lakewood. This is what firefighters with West Metro drove up to about 2 a.m. The department tweeted this video a few hours ago. These townhomes were all under construction. No one was living there at 16th and Route in Lakewood. Sky 9 flew over after the firefighters got it out. You can see the damage that was left behind. The heat from that fire did set a home next door on fire. This picture shows the damage done there. The people who lived there got out safely. The heat also melted the blinds inside an apartment across the street and the siding of another home. A couple of cars were also damaged. As for the cause, it's still under investigation. Our partners with Colorado Politics are reporting the city of Aurora is moving forward with its plan to impose minimum penalties for car thefts. The new fines passed with a 7-4 vote last night. The new bill puts a mandatory jail sentence of 60 days for the first car theft and 120 days for repeat offenses. It also adds tougher penalties for stolen parts like catalytic converters, which can lead up to almost a year in jail and more than $2,600 in fines.
Now let's take a live look out at Glenwood Canyon, and it's going to look very different for eastbounders tomorrow along I-70, at least for most of the day, because it's going to be closed through the canyon for those eastbounders. Crews are going to be working to remove this semi, the truck that crashed out of the median and flipped on its side and top last Thursday morning. It had already kept the canyon closed for much of last Thursday. So again, tomorrow, the eastbound lanes are expected to be closed between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m.
And today we got to see the first 5 pictures from NASA's new James Webb Space Telescope.
Yeah, these pictures are stunning. They look more like art than space. More importantly, they give us the clearest look that we've ever seen at our universe.
We got to see pictures of the cosmic cliffs, a group of 5 galaxies popularized in the A Wonderful Life, the Southern Ring Nebula, and a lot of other galaxies around our universe. The images also show signs of water on faraway planets. The pictures are making a lot of people's heads spin with excitement.
Yeah, mind-blowing is a good term. Amazing, out of this world. We're going to be seeing the very first stars in our universe, the very first galaxies in our universe. So these are things that no one has ever seen before.
We'll see more of the pictures, we promise. Ahead at 4:30, we're talking with one of the NASA scientists working with the telescope about how it works and what the pictures can teach us.
You know, as good as the pictures are, your descriptions of them were almost
yeah,
better.
right. Yeah,
It's almost like seeing the pictures without actually seeing the pictures.
without actually seeing them, but you're going to see them, I promise.
It's coming up. Also just ahead on 4 o'clock at 9 News, the 7th day of the public testimony regarding the January 6th insurrection, shedding more light on the far-right extremist groups who attacked the Capitol.
Plus, direct testimony from President Trump's White House counsel.
And the U.S. pledging more than $1 billion to Ukraine. This time, it is not for weapons.
And in Colorado, the heat is on. Danielle is back with her full forecast in about 10 minutes.